Welcome to Off the Wall. My name is Trey. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out the show this week. We got a good one in store for you. We got Malik Honeycutt, who's a wide receiver for the Salina Liberty. Got him on the show this week to talk about his journey through football, what led him to arena football, and how things are working out in Salina so far this year. Didn't get off to the greatest start in the world, as we talked about, but they've seemed to be getting things in order and are in line for a strong finish to the season. So we'll also talk about AF1, IFL, and NAL action from this past weekend. But before we dive into any of that, social time. That's right. If you don't already, please make sure you're following us on all of our socials at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball, Off the Wall FB. We are on Instagram. We're on X/Twitter. We're on TikTok. We're on Blue Sky, Threads, all the things and stuff. Make sure you're following us wherever you are active and engage. Let me say hi. If you want to like something cool, if you have a comment on something that I post a lot of nonsense at times, but if you agree, disagree, please join the conversation. Let me know. It's always fun mixing up with arena fans and get to know different perspectives, different backstories from people that love the arena football game. And while you're in the following and liking mood, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel as well. At Off the Wall FB, same thing there. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, go share it with a friend. Check out one of the latest episodes of the Turf Tapes, a live stream that we do watching old arena football games. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please make sure you're going to the show page, rating it 5 stars, sharing it with a friend as well, and helping grow this thing out. The support has been awesome to see, and we're trending in the right direction on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on the socials. Everything's trending up, so let's keep this thing going and see how far we can take it. So let's not waste any more time. Here's the interview with Malik Honeycutt. All right, on the show this week, we have a player who's been around the arena football game for a couple years now, and he's been balling out for the Salina Liberty this season. His name is Malik Honeycutt. Malik, really appreciate you taking the time to hop on the show this week. How are things with you today, and how are the vibes in Salina coming off of a big win on a road trip to Billings?
Appreciate you for having me, but the vibes over here is great. We started off rocky with 0-4, but
yeah,
we knew that wasn't us, and we turned things around, and we're headed to greatness.
Nice, yeah.
Great things going on, just know that.
Yeah, the past couple games was definitely something where it was like, okay, this is the team I felt like they could be this whole time. Like those first 4 games was like, man, they can't get out of their own way. But now it seems like, all right, we're starting to get some things figured out. And 2-game winning streak now, heading into the meat of the season. This should be a fun time.
Definitely, yeah. I don't know, like those first 4 games, like exactly, we were being ourselves. Like it was not to discredit any of the other teams that we were facing. Like,
of course, yeah.
Like we played some good teams, but we were really being ourselves. So
yeah,
it was crazy. But now, like we found like, I guess, I don't know what you want to say. I guess we just found a way to limit our mistakes.
Yeah.
And so that was our main focus. So yeah.
Yeah, it's hard enough beating the other team. You can't be beating yourself and the other team exactly. At the same time.
We're going against them, and we're going against ourselves.
Yeah. That's not a good numbers game. But before we dive into this season and how things are going with there, I want to dive into a little bit about your personal football journey and tell us a little bit about that and what led you to arena football.
All right, when I came out, when I graduated from Murray State, I did my pro day, and I was expected to get some calls. And then next thing you know, after my pro day, I tore my meniscus. It was a slight tear. I had to get surgery on it, but it wasn't, anything big.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get that meniscus tear, those calls go away once they find that out. So,
right, yeah.
But that first year, I didn't play any football. I still had belief that I was gonna make a team, or opportunity was gonna come either like the next year or whenever. So I was still working out, still grinding, and I was just working. And the next year, I get a random phone call from Mike Davis from the Vegas Nighthawks, and he was, wanted me to come out there and see what I can do. And before then, I never thought about arena. Like I never knew. I never watched the game or anything.
Yeah.
But I was just like, why not? I looked it up. I'm like, it looked fun. Still football at the end of the day.
Right.
And then I heard about, the opportunities that people was getting. playing arena and then going to like CFL, UFL, XFL, something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I went. And I went out there to Vegas, made the team. I played out there my first full rookie season. Played receiver, DB, running back. I played everything for real.
Okay. Yeah.
Then the next year, the second year, I signed with the Philadelphia Soul in the AFL. I
Oh, yeah.
went out there and I was a part of that whole mess out there. It was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. And then, as you know, they folded. And when they folded, I went back to Vegas the next day. So I went back to Vegas. I played out there for the first half of the season. And then the second half of the season, I went back to the AFL in Orlando. And I finished
Mm.
the season out with them. And I went out there. And then this year, I signed back to Orlando. I have a crazy arena story. That's crazy. But I signed back to Orlando, because it was known to be one of the most stable teams
Right.
folded in 30 years. So I'm like, I'm gonna go back over there. They had a good program. We had a great team. I love the coaches and everything. Went over there,
Yeah.
and a bunch of mess happened over there. And then Orlando ended up folding this year,
Yeah.
which was crazy. I'm like, that's 2 years back to back on teams that folded. Like,
Yeah.
crazy. Um, then obviously after they folded, I had to figure out what was my next move. I had
Hmm.
a lot of teams calling me, trying to get me to come. Most were for DB, but this year, like my whole goal coming into this whole season was to get a bunch of receiver film.
Yeah.
And when Salina called me, Coach O, he called me and asked me how would I like to be the main motion guy at receiver. And as soon as he said that, he had me sold. I ain't asking what position that he wanted me to play at first. That's the first thing he said.
Yeah.
He had me sold, and I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
I came over here to Salina, and then it's been great ever since, man.
That's awesome.
We started off rocky, but we turned the thing around.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome that you were able to find that opportunity to display those talents that you wanted to. And like you said, you didn't have to sell him on it or anything. He was like, yeah, we want you for this. And it seemed like it was meant to be. So it's awesome that it worked out that way.
He was amazing.
So let's talk about Coach Mike Davis over in Vegas. So I wanted to touch on that. It seems like Coach Davis has a great eye for talent. He's always attracting some really great pieces to the roster over in Vegas. What was that first season like in Vegas, adjusting not just to a different style of football, but that adjustment from being a college player to being a professional at your craft? Like, what was that adjustment like?
For me, it was a learning process my first year. Like,
Yeah.
not as far as like being a professional and stuff like that. Like I was always you know, practicing hard, practicing afterwards, doing the extra work and stuff like that. But just learning the arena game as a receiver, like,
Yeah.
it's a lot different than outside. I'll tell you that. But yeah, that first year, it was really just a big learning process for me. Getting my arena ball like IQ up.
Hmm.
That was basically it. Because like talent wise, like my speed, athleticism, like that was never the case. Never a problem. Me
Yeah.
coming to workouts and like being able to compete with people, that was never the problem. It was that first year, it was just my football IQ for the arena. It was low because I didn't know anything about it before that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. And
Yeah, you mentioned the adjusting from the receiver side. Like it cracks me up whenever you scroll social media, you see folks practicing receiver and they run these like super complicated route tree things where they're like taking 19 steps to run a 4 yard whip route or something. And it's like you can't do that in an arena. Like it happens way too quick. So is that the type of adjustment you were talking about where being able to take something where it may be a 5, 6 second developing play in the outdoor game, but you just don't have that time in indoors.
yeah, that and like so It's just like mid route, like just running routes. Period. Like a post outside, you're running straight for the most part, and then you hit it at that angle.
Yeah.
Indoor, you have a different stem. Like it's not straight. It's I don't know how to call it. It's like I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. I would just have to like show you, but
Yeah.
yeah, so it's just a lot different.
Is it like a sharper angle,
No,
would you say?
actually, it's not sharper. It's more round. More,
Okay, more rounded. Okay.
yeah, yeah. And indoor arena football is more rounded routes than you know breaking in just going
Yeah, yeah.
because they want you to speed cuts. They want you know here if you breaking down and trying to get in your route for the most part, it's slowing you down.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But in terms of the defensive side of the ball, you mentioned playing DB in Vegas your first year and a little bit of running back and a little bit of wide receiver too. On the defensive side, what was that adjustment like being able to sometimes take on that high motion and make that adjustment as well?
Oh, that's the hardest thing ever. Playing DB guarding the high motion and arena and indoor, that's the hardest thing ever to do. That's the
Yeah.
hardest position in arena football. Like you have to be amazing at backpedaling, having somebody come full speed. They have a running head start before they move and
Yeah.
react to them either stopping on a dime right here, going across your face, or going deep. Like it's crazy. So it's easier for receivers, but
Yeah.
it's hard. That's the hardest position in the ring.
Yeah, like you said, a literal running head start, and you have maybe 2 or 3 seconds, if that,
Yeah.
to adjust to what they're doing. It's like, all right, I better make the right choice here.
So like me having to guard myself, that is crazy. Like
Yeah.
just thinking about a receiver that's running a 4-4 or a 4-3, having a running head start while you flat footed right now until he hikes the ball and he passes the line of scrimmage, and then you react. Like that's wild to even.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to think about, and I think in today's indoor and arena landscape, ever since they went away with Iron Man years and years ago, and they came back for like a game or two last year, but you don't really see players playing both sides, playing both like wide receiver and DB. Do you have a preference on like you're playing more wide receiver now, but like through your experience so far, do you prefer being on the offensive side of the ball and having that leverage over the defensive back instead of being in their shoes?
Yeah, like I'd rather much play receiver. I don't know if you watched like last game, but last game I played both sides.
Yeah, yeah.
I, I dropped the pick six. I should have had that, but like I'd rather play receiver. But when the game on the line, whether it's defense or offense, I'd rather me be in there playing DB or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't care if the game on the line. I need to be in the game. Don't care what position it's at.
Yeah, right. The play don't care who makes it,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I saw you out there on playing DB, and I was like, wait, what what's happening right now? Like, why is he on both sides? But hey, like you said, the team needs you to step up. And while we're talking about that, we laughed about this on social, but tell me about that last play of the game where your teammate made the interception and you made a heads up play to make sure you guys won the game. Walk me through that and how all that went down.
yeah. So like we were up. I forgot how many points, 5 or 6 points. The other
Yeah.
Billings were in the red zone, and it was like 8 seconds to go, and they threw the ball, and my teammate RJ caught the interception, and he looked like he wanted to take off and take it to the crib,
Yeah.
but me being smart enough, I knowing that it was a chance that if he fumbled, they could get the ball back or score or whatever. So I had to
Right.
just go ahead, tackle him, take him to the ground, let that clock run out. Let's go celebrate.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. It was funny to see teammate tackle his own teammate on an interception return. But you're absolutely right. In that situation, it's like, look, just get down.
Yeah,
Just get the like we would love to get the pick six, but any other situation, go for it. But in this one exactly, get down. Game's over. We win.
exactly. big dude in front of him that was looking for blood. So
Uh-huh.
I never know how that turned out. Big dude comes smacking a little dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't give them any opportunity to do anything.
uh,
But yeah, you mentioned earlier you played with Orlando towards the end of last season, and you were signed with Orlando this year before things went a little south and got a little crazy there. And I was super excited to see that team take the field because I felt like that was one of the stronger rosters in all of Arena Football One heading into the season. So I was bummed, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest what ifs of Arena Football over the next couple of years
yeah.
to be able to think about like, man, if you look back at that roster, there were some guys on there.
They was
Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say, tell me about that bond you had with some of those guys and how things kind of went from your perspective. And we've had Coach Burt on the show here before, and we got his kind of sense of the situation. But how did all that go down from your end?
uh well, first, like that team, we were we were gonna we was gonna do some damage in the league.
Yeah,
We had some guys over there. It was crazy. And we all, you know, bought in from day one. And it was crazy how fast we clicked together. Um on and off the field. Like we
yeah,
all best friends. Like we in a group chat right now with the whole team and we still talk to this day, every day.
yeah,
Every day. Like we all watch each other's games, everybody in, different teams, different leagues.
yeah.
We bonded fast and like yeah, we had some dogs in that. I don't know what happened, with the whole situation.
Yeah.
I feel like they knew what we had over there and they were scared of us and they made it
Uh-huh.
somehow for us to not play with each other because we
Yeah.
kill.
Yeah, it was shaping up to be one of those squads where, man, there was going to be some damage done, and like I said, it's going to be one of those biggest what ifs for me to think about after this season, and when we kind of look back in hindsight. But everything does happen for a reason.
Exactly.
You end up in Salina, like you mentioned, playing for Coach O, and you mentioned getting that phone call and what that looked like. What's it like playing for Coach O, a literal Hall of Fame coach? And being able to learn the game and from his experiences both as a player and as a coach that's been doing it at such a high level for so long.
Um, he's a smart dude. He
Yeah.
knows his game like the back of his hand. Uh, I love it. I love playing for him. And another reason that I love playing for him because he is he listens like so he can teach you, show you everything.
Hmm.
At the same time, he's not out there, seeing what we see on the field or like whatever. He can't see everything. And say if I see something that the defense is playing a particular way or whatever, and I think that
Hmm.
run this play or run this route or add this route into our offense, I can go to him, tell him, and he gonna watch the film and see what I see. And if he likes what I told him, he'll add it in there.
Nice. Okay.
So a lot of coaches not gonna do that.
Yeah.
It's very few. It's very few that'll do that.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I love about him. But yeah, he's a great coach. He don't take no BS.
Yeah.
He'll turn up with us, but when it's time to get down and dirty, it's time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that's great. He has that two-way communication because, like you said, a lot of times you hear horror stories about coaches where it's the coaches talking at the players a lot of the time. So being able to hear that he's talking with you guys and conversing and taking what you're bringing to him in consideration, that's great. And I think that speaks volumes to what has made him so successful over the years.
yeah, most definitely. Yeah, he lets like when if it's something out there that I see, like boom, it was one play that happened in the game. The defense, what is one particular DB, he was playing me like one way. He knew that I was coming across, doing an over route, whatever.
Hmm.
And he wasn't staying square and like keeping me honest because well, we were running, like I was just going across. And
Yeah.
next thing I came to coach, I showed him on the iPad on the sideline. I said, he's playing this way right here. Let's do this. Boom, boom, boom. And the next thing you know, a couple drives later, we did that same play.
Yeah.
Got a long first down on it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it's happening every game, happening live. You see it happening on Evergreen.
Yeah.
So talking about this year's Salina team, as you mentioned, didn't start off so hot, but the past couple games starting to find your rhythm. Is there anything in particular that the switch just kind of flipped and things have been working well ever since, or has it just been something where it's like, all right, we finally, like we mentioned, finally got out of our own way and we're starting to see what this team could be.
It wasn't really anything in particular. It was just we needed those losses. We needed those early L's to humble us,
Yeah.
and to learn from our mistakes. That's basically it. Like we added players, here and there, but
Hmm.
the main thing was people were thinking that they were too good, and
Yeah.
they just thought those wins were just gonna come.
That's fair. Yeah.
Those first games, it woke people up. It it showed people that it's actually competition out here. You
Yeah.
got to come correct. You got to come ready. You got to come, prepared. And you can't make that many mistakes. So
Yeah.
that was the only thing. It wasn't nothing big that really just changed. We just had to lock in more. That was all.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think the success the team had last year, making it all the way up to the game before the championship game, it's a new season. Like that, none of that matters. Like nothing's going to carry over. It's a new season, new team for the most part, a lot of new pieces. So yeah, it was interesting to hear that it's like, yeah, it was a bit of a wake up call, and it was needed because now things are starting to click. Now things are starting to work out. Um, so like we've talked about, the past couple games have shown some of the shown the potential of what the Salina team could be, and I think you guys are going to make a strong run to the end of the season. It's going to be very exciting to see. But when it comes to like game day and preparation, do you have any like specific rituals or superstitions that you follow? Like you wear the lucky gloves, have a pregame specific meal. Like, is there anything in particular that you do?
Just on home games. After we eat at the stadium, I walk over to the YMCA, get in the hot tub, and stretch.
Okay,
Yeah, I love the hot tub. Got to keep the muscles loose. So yeah, I get
right, yeah,
in that hot tub for about 10 to 15 minutes, and I stretch right afterwards. Other than that,
nice.
it's nothing else.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes folks have like a go-to like my lucky towel that I wear every game,
Yeah,
whatever it is. But with some of the gear that Salina's been rocking this year, it's you can make a case that some of the cleanest uniforms in all of Arena Football One. So it makes sense that you wouldn't have anything in particular when the all reds, the all blues. It looks nice.
yeah, man.
So
Them jerseys clean.
yeah. I want to ask you about Black Shield Media. That's a digital media and brand company that helps out a bunch of folks in the arena space, and you partner with them on a couple posts here and there. How did you get connected with them, and what's that relationship been like?
Uh, I got connected them from a friend, Kill Greer. He plays for Washington.
Yeah, okay.
Washington, like last year, the stuff that they're doing with me, like after you have a big game, they'll put
Hmm.
out there, just basically trying to get your name out there so other leagues can see it. So you can have a better chance at getting to the next level and getting to another
Of course.
league or something like that. But yeah, I got partnered up with them through Akil.
Oh, cool.
So from there, he introduced me, told me what he was about, told me what he was trying to do. I was like, let's do it. So yeah.
Yeah, that visibility is so key, especially in this modern era of social media that we're in, where you never know who's watching. You never know who's going to see a post. You never know who may be looking for a wide receiver at the next level. They're scrolling Instagram and be like, "Oh, this guy caught 3 touchdowns last week. tell me more. Let's take a look. So it's cool to see that you found a partner that's willing to help out with some of those things and really help put players on a pedestal because that's what the arena and indoor game needs. And needs to be able to shout out some of these players that are doing really good things both on and off the field. So it's cool to hear about that partnership.
Yeah, and it's working. Like it's been working. After I had my 3 touchdowns, I talked to a team in the UFL, the Michigan team.
Oh, nice.
So people are seeing them, and
Yeah.
each of those posts, like they're averaging like at least 7,000 views.
Right.
People are watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome to hear, and again, that increased exposure is just so important. But like I said, I really appreciate you taking the time to hop on here today. One last question before we get out of here: what can fans of the Salina Liberty and of Arena Football One in general look forward to from this team the rest of the season?
For the rest of the season, we're gonna. I know first 4 games, everybody had us at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah,
Worried about us. Uh, I mean, we like that. We love the adversity. We love the people, down us and stuff like that. But
yeah.
as y'all see, we turn this thing around, and it's gonna be some more surprises coming soon. So,
Let's go. Love to hear that. Well, where can people follow you on socials?
Instagram is my name Malik Honeycutt dot underscore
Okay.
MalikNeycutt. That's basically the only thing I'm really on.
All right, cool. Yeah, we'll link that in the description here. So if you're watching on YouTube, scroll down just a hair, click it there, go give them a follow, let them know you heard them on Off the Wall. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, do the same. Should be in the description there. So yeah, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you taking the time this week, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the Liberty and yourself do the rest of the way. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
Yes, sir. Sunday we play Albany on Evergreen now. It's a free app. Y'all tune
Yes.
for the rematch.
Let's go. Love it. All right. Thank you, Malik.
Appreciate you.
Big thanks again to Malik for joining the show this week. It's always interesting to hear the path that people take. Arena football is a very untraditional world, but to hear the different stories and the different ways that people navigate this very unique world is super interesting to me. And I'm glad that he was able to share some of that and some of the steps that didn't work out quite the way they thought, like Philly or in Orlando, but some of the ones that were successful, like Vegas and now Salina, where he's at now, is really cool to hear. And you don't really hear about two-way players like Malik as often anymore in the arena game. So big shout out to Malik. Make sure you follow him on socials. Links are in the description. But as we alluded to, they came off of a big win last week, and that's what we're going to talk about first. AF1 Week 7. Salina Liberty went to Billings to take on the Billings Outlaws, the defending arena football champions. And Salina won this game 43-37. So Salina finally got back in the win column against Oregon a few weeks back. And now they're starting to build up on consecutive wins. They beat Oregon 2 weeks ago. They beat the Outlaws this past week. And the Outlaws had their championship celebration where they were, the banner, ring ceremony, all those things and stuff. And Salina seemed to take that personally. I think in the post game comments, Tracy Brooks was the player of the game. He ended up scoring 4 touchdowns on the day. He said they could have chose their first game to do their championship celebration, but they purposely chose our game, and we took that personally. It's not a direct quote, paraphrasing, but that's the gist of what he said. And you could tell that they took that personally, where they went out there and they played really solid football for especially compared to what they did the first couple of games. And I think what has really worked for them is, I know it sounds very simple, very silly, but getting the ball to their best players and letting them do the work. Tracy Brooks was not actively involved in the game plan for the first 4 weeks of the season. You'd see him take the field. He maybe would get a couple touches, but that was really the extent of it. There wasn't a whole lot going on there. And this week, he scored 4 touchdowns, and they were continuously feeding him the ball, continuously giving him handoff after handoff and letting him do the work. And they were able to find ways to get the ball to Malik Honeycutt as well. And so, it's so simple. Get the ball out of the quarterback's hands, get it to your playmakers, let them make plays. it works. And it worked for Salina here. Rakeem Keita was slated to get the start, but he might have picked up an injury in pregame leading up to it. So Javin Kilgo ended up getting the start here, and he played pretty well in this one, much better than he has in the past. And again, he was able to be that facilitator that this offense needs, not having to make a home run play every single play or every single time he touches the ball, but just get it to the people that can make the play. And you've got a running back like Tracy Brooks, ride him to the promised land. Like make sure you give him the ball and let him do the work. He scored 4 touchdowns in this game, and it's like Salina forgot that they had the best running back in the AF1 up until a couple weeks ago. So to see them kind of go back to that and remember, oh yeah, this is who we are. This is what works for us. It was refreshing to see. But for Billings, there's a lot to unpack for this offense, and a lot needs to change, and a lot will be changing as things are getting announced. Probably by the time I post this, something will probably be announced about certain Corpus Christi players that might be coming up to Billings. But they made a switch at quarterback in this game, and Danny Southwick, Father Time himself, made the start at quarterback in this one, and he was okay for the most part, but made a couple crucial mistakes for the Outlaws that really sunk their chances at winning. He threw a bad interception at the end of the first half and a bad interception at the end of the second half in the red zone, and both interceptions took place in the end zone, and they lost by 6. So if you're able to score on just one of those, that changes the tide of the game dramatically, and they potentially walk away with a win in this one. But the costly turnovers in those clutch moments really hurt them. Braden Wingle really struggled in the 2 games against Albany, and they were hoping that Southwick would be able to get them back on track, and that just wasn't the case. They weren't able to do that. So Outlaws are now sitting at 2-3, which is not something I think anybody would have expected at this point of the season. And they're simply in a rut on offense. They can't seem to get a lot going for them. Obviously, much improved than what they did against Albany the 2 weeks or the 2 games before this one. But they either need to go back to Wingle at quarterback and let him develop, or try to find an alternative option besides Wingle and besides Southwick to come in there at QB and potentially light a spark. But yeah, I'm not sure what direction they're going to take, but it's going to be something where something's got to change, or they just have to remain patient and let Wingle develop into who he was in those first couple games against Oregon and Washington, and let him figure some things out against these teams that are playing tougher defense. Next game we're going to talk about is the Albany Firebirds at the Corpus Christi Tritons. I'm using air quotes if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And Albany won this game 100-12. 100-12. That is right. Well, leading up to this game, rumors and were swirling for weeks about Corpus Christi and, for lack of a better term, cash flow issues. And they were behind multiple weeks on some players' pay. And some of the players decided, you know what? We're not going to pay until we're not going to play until we're paid what we're owed. A lot more of a tongue twister than I thought it would be, which is 100% fair. Good for the players for taking a stand. If they're owed money, get the money that they need, or get the money that they're owed, and like the team needs to do right by the players. So going into this game, this was one of the most anticipated games of the season. It was a clash of what had arguably been the 2 top teams in the entire league up to this point. And there were storylines aplenty with Darius Prince and Dwayne Hollis playing Albany for the first time since departing last season on terms that may not have been the greatest. And it was going to be a legitimate litmus test for the Tritons to see where they're at. They lost on a buzzer beater that shouldn't have been a buzzer beater against Southwest Kansas. And so you can make the case that this should have been a clash of 2 undefeated teams, but many of the starters for Corpus Christi were the ones impacted by the pay issues and were the ones that didn't play. I mean, we're talking about Prince, Hollis, Terrence Ames, Fred Payton Jr., and more. A lot of these players that were very impactful for the Tritons did not play in this one, and it showed. They lost by 88 points. And so they were down 79-0 at halftime. 79-0, and they just never had a chance in this one. They had some, I hate calling them replacement players, but that's what they were. They were replacement players that were signed last minute to fill the void for in some of those spots where some of those players were striking, I guess. I don't know, sitting out until they were owed what they were paid what they were owed. But Yeah, it was a tough one. It was like less than 6, 7 minutes. It was one of those things where we're like, all right, I've seen enough. We can probably call this game now and it's fine. But yeah, Albany took advantage of the situation and really had an offensive explosion. Henry Nell had an incredible game kicking the ball, but this is probably going to be the last season. I honestly don't think Corpus Christi is going to fold mid-season because I feel like if they were going to fold, it would have already happened at this point. I feel they have a ton of roster cuts where they let go of a lot of the players that sat out this past game, even suspended a couple, which was a little crazy. But I think this is the last that we'll see of Corpus Christi in the AF1. There's other issues that let's just say other league owners were already not happy with them about. Then you have this situation. I feel like they'll finish the season, limp across the finish line with some replacement players and figure things out on the go. If anything, just to make sure that other teams' home dates in their arenas are fulfilled and they get their home games that fans have paid tickets for. But I think this is probably the last we see of Corpus Christi in the AF1 in 2025. I just don't see them coming back in 2026. Whether they go play in another league or cease operations entirely, I don't know. Who knows? It's the world of arena ball is crazy. But as we mentioned, Albany's offense just they were electric, just absolutely lit it up. Henry now was my player of the week across all arena and indoor football. He had 26 points on the day, which for a kicker is crazy. Five deuces, six drop kick extra points, two normal extra points, and then an amazing back corner fade on a fire drill where bad snap. McCoy picked it up and was just running around trying to make something happen. He found Nell in the back of the end zone and hit him. And Henry Nell, athlete, made quite a play to bring it in. So big shout out to Henry for that one. Yeah, and the Firebirds were just clicking immediately. And Sam Casanova, I think, played maybe a drive or two. Dwayne Brown had like by the time I'm recording this, there weren't any stats available, so whatever. We don't need stats for this one. We know that Albany scored a lot of points. Dwayne Brown caught a lot of passes. Robert McCoy, I think, threw 6 or 7 touchdown passes. So a crazy amount of points being scored by this offense. And like I said, they were up 79-0 at halftime and they ended up with 100 points. They could have easily scored 140, 130, possibly 150 in this game if they really kept their foot on the gas. But they really let up in the second half, and they were just trying to get out of there with the win that was in hand since about 10 minutes left in the first quarter. So Albany is still the class of the league until proven otherwise. And this was just an absolutely dominant performance in every aspect of the game. And they weren't the only team to showcase some dominant performances this past week. The Washington Wolfpack. I was very surprised to see what they were able to do against the Oregon Lightning. Washington won that game 41-30, and Washington finally made some adjustments to their offense. And finally, I don't know if they read the blog, I don't know if they listen to the podcast, but I've been shouting from the rooftops about how their play calling has just been bad, and they need to be more intentional with their short passing game, running the ball, all that stuff. And that's what they were doing in this game. They were very intentional with running the ball. They made a head scratching move last week, roster wise, when they let go of Ed Crouch and brought back Adam Cruz from the IR. And it was one where I was like, what, why, what are you doing? Turns out there's some off the field issues that may have contributed to that a little bit more than on field, but big shout out to Adam Cruz for stepping in, and he really was able to facilitate for this offense. Facilitate is a key word that you have heard me use, and I will continue to use for the quarterback position. He took the reins at quarterback, and this Washington offense was soaring through the first 3 quarters of the game. They jumped out to a 41-0 lead, 41-0. 41-0 heading into the fourth quarter, and Cruz was slinging the ball around the yard. He was connecting on deep passes. They were running the ball intentionally and effectively. Like it was like, who is this Washington team? And what have you done with the team that I've been yelling at through the computer screen and through the TV for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season? And this was quite a change of pace for Washington, and it came at just the right time. They're sitting at 2-4 right now, and they've got a game against Oregon, another game against Oregon coming up, a game against Billings, and then another game against Oregon as well to make up some potential ground and put themselves potentially in a playoff spot. So this Washington team that just looked lost and could barely take the field and barely do anything in the second half of 3 games in a row suddenly looks like a team that's like, okay, they might have gotten out of their own way and they might be a team that can give teams a fright because they've had the talent to do it. They just haven't been able to execute. And this was a game where they finally executed. But if you notice, I said they jumped out to a 41-0 lead, and the final score was 41-30. Oregon wasn't going away. Oregon was sticking around, but it wasn't because of Oregon's offense. The Oregon defense came out and they had a fumble recovery for a touchdown, a pick six, a kick return touchdown to finally get on the board late in the third quarter. And then quarterback Jordan Ambrose came in and he had a 35-yard run to finally show some sign of life on the offense. But you take away the special teams touchdown, the 2 defensive touchdowns. That's 1 offensive touchdown in this game for the Oregon Lightning. Oregon's offense is broken. It's bad. It's bad. The offensive line is basically a turnstile at like a theme park or something where like they're just letting people through, no problem. Dalton Cole is taking a beating all game, and honestly, it looks like they look so bad. I question their practice habits. I really do. Like I question how much time they're spending practicing on offense, how much time they're spending implementing schemes, implementing, game plans. Like it just doesn't seem like they spend a ton of time doing that. And it shows if you just try to watch this offense. It's very difficult to intentionally watch this offense, but if you just try, you'll see what I'm talking about, where it's like they've regressed dramatically over the past 3, 4 weeks. And with some of the adjustments they've made, they brought in some great defensive help. They bringing in Jeremiah Spicer, bringing in Freddie Booth Lloyd, bringing in these players that can make a difference on defense. But the defense can only do so much. The defense actually outscored the offense in this one. But just imagine if the offense just had a pulse at any point in this game. They could probably win this one with the defense that Oregon has, but Oregon's defense again just keeps getting put in bad spot after bad spot and can only do so much when the offense is giving you nothing for what is it, 39, 40 minutes of the game. So Oregon's in a bad spot. They have 1 win on the year, and that came on a Hail Mary against Southwest Kansas. So like you take away a 1 in 100, 1 in 50, I don't know, whatever odds you want to put it on. You take away that Hail Mary, they're staying at 0 for right now, and they're just a rough team, and their offense just looks lost across the board, and they need to. I don't know if they need to practice more. I don't know what it is. Like something needs to change, and the O line has to improve their play to give Dalton Cole a chance, and maybe we see Jordan Ambrose a little bit more to be more mobile. I don't know. The Oregon offense has got to change something and change something quickly. But the last game that we're going to talk about in the AF1 from this past week was the Nashville Cats at the Southwest Kansas Storm. And Nashville won this game 41-37. So heading into this game, Nashville's stock was skyrocketing. They had manhandled their past 2 opponents. And they were looking like a serious contender to make a run for the playoffs and potentially challenge Albany and potentially be a team that could actually be a challenge for Albany on the road to the playoffs and in the playoffs itself. And if you remember, Nashville and Southwest Kansas played in week 0, where Nashville had 7 turnovers. And man, like considering they had 7 turnovers, the end result wasn't that bad. I think they ended up losing by 8 points. So short training camp for Nashville. They got a ton of new pieces in and a new quarterback in play, new pieces on offense and defense, and they're a night and day different team from what they were in week 0. And the Cats offense looked pretty good in this game, but they caught that turnover bug where they fumbled the ball in the end zone a couple times. They got stuffed on fourth down a handful of times, and Southwest Kansas was able to stick around and have an opportunity to come back and win it late. But the Nashville defense was able to step up in a big way and get a timely stop for them to be able to secure the game. But if they are able to convert in some of those spots where, they have a handoff at the 3-yard line, they fumble into the end zone, they have a first and goal from the 2 late in the game. They end up being stuffed on a fourth and goal. They're able to convert on either of those. You're looking at a game that they're in full control of and is not even a little bit of a sweat. Like not even a little bit. Like a just total control from start to finish. So Nashville went on the road, got the win against a good Southwest Kansas team. Let's not discredit that. Southwest Kansas is a very good squad. But Tyler Kolka, not enough good things can be said about him. He's able to really throw the ball efficiently and put the offense in the red zone. And then once they're in the red zone, they're usually able to punch it in pretty consistently. They were able to get 4 scores on the ground. Jones Jr., Kolka twice, and then Brown scoring the 4 touchdowns. And this was a strong performance, and they were able to overcome their own self-inflicted wounds, which is usually a sign of a pretty good team where you're able to make mistakes, but overcome that and still walk away with a win. Again, against a very good team in Southwest Kansas. But for the Storm, this was a rough one on offense, especially in the second half. They scored 23 points in the first half, looked to be able to go up and down the field and really do what they wanted on offense, but they were held scoreless in the third quarter and had to put together a comeback attempt that really fell short in the fourth. And Jalen Morton at quarterback ended up going 12 for 34 for 115 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So not a great game throwing the ball for the Storm, especially when you look back on a couple of the more recent games. They've been much more efficient in that aspect. Charles Hall, the fourth, had a strong game with 6 catches for 58 yards, and he caught some of those in some very clutch moments where they needed a first down very badly, and he was the one that they were able to go to more times than not. But there wasn't much going on the ground for Morton either, but Logan Wright, running back for the Storm, he was able to run the ball pretty impactfully, and I feel like they could have gone to him a little bit more. He was averaging nearly 6 yards per carry on the ground, and even if you were down late, you should still be giving that guy the ball. You should still be finding a way to, okay, we have a running clock regardless. If you throw an incomplete pass outside of the 1 minute, final 1 minute of each half, the clock is always running. So the clock is going to be running regardless. Why not give it to the guy that is getting 6 yards a carry? 2 carries at 6 yards a clip. That's a first down. You're going to march right down the field. Like it just feels like they abandoned what was really impactful and really working for them, and just tried to pass the ball. And while that has worked against some other teams in the past, this Nashville defense is different. Like this Nashville defense is very good, one of the very best in the league, if not. You can make a case for it being the best talent-wise, but that, we'll get into that argument and discussion later. But this was a big game for the Storm to be able to potentially take out one of the hotter teams in the league and be able to establish themselves as a great team in this league. I think right now they are a good team, but to be able to take that next step and become a great team, they have to find ways to win these games in particular. And they had a chance to win this game. They had the ball with less than a minute left on their own 2-yard line, down by 2, and they just got bullied on the line of scrimmage and ended up taking a safety, and that was pretty much it. So Southwest Kansas, again, good team, not a great team at the moment, and their defense can create turnovers and their offense can be streaky, but it needs to be more consistent against these good and great teams in order to take that next step to be great themselves. We're going to shift over to the IFL now. We had a pretty big slate of games this past weekend in the IFL, starting with Vegas at San Antonio, and Vegas won this game 35-28. Coming into this one, Vegas was off to a rough start, and I picked them as somebody that I thought was going to make a run for the championship and ultimately win it. That's how strongly I felt about this roster heading into the year. And offensively, they were really struggling and trying to figure things out. And Jerome Johnson, truthfully, it wasn't great the first couple games of the season, and it seemed like they were knocking the rust off and having to figure things out. But a few minutes before kickoff, Vegas decided, you know what, we're going to start a different quarterback. They started quarterback Jaden DeLora instead of Johnson in this one, and DeLora played pretty well. He had some hiccups. He had some things that you would expect from a rookie making his first IFL start, but he didn't have any backbreaking turnovers or backbreaking interceptions. He was pretty efficient with the ball. He went 11 for 15 for 113 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air, had another 60 on the ground. But Vegas also was much more intentional with running the ball as a team in this game. Heading into this game, non-quarterbacks had 28 total carries through 3 games. In this game alone, they had 16 between Wimbush, Randolph, and Wyndham. 16 carries amongst those three alone. So they had a much improved focus on running the ball outside the quarterback position. So I think that certainly helped Delora in this one and would have probably helped Johnson if that was the case as well. But they're in an interesting quarterback situation now where do you go with the player that has the higher ceiling and has that bigger playmaking ability with Jerome Johnson, or do you go with the safer route, someone that will take a little bit better care of the ball, but may not have as high of a ceiling and will be a little bit more conservative with how they approach it? I think Vegas has an interesting conversation, and I'm curious to see what direction they end up taking. But for San Antonio, they came into this week with a new quarterback and truthfully not having an identity on either side of the ball. And I didn't know what to expect from them. And they shifted into being a run heavy team, which was surprising to see, but it worked for them. It really did. With the personnel that they have, they are able to be a run heavy team, specifically with quarterback Guy Myers. I think he had 20 carries on the day. He had 74 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing. And overall, as a team, they had over 100 yards on the ground, which is shocking to see in a San Antonio box score, considering what we've seen from them over the past or like last season. But they weren't really able to really be impactful through the air that like you would hope that they would with the weapons they have at wideout. So I think this was a good step in the right direction for San Antonio, establishing a new identity as a run first team. But I think the next step is going to be how do you utilize that to open things up for that passing game, to open things up for Naquan Murray, to open things up for DJ Myers when he eventually gets back from injury. How do you also continue to get other folks involved in that running game? DJ Meyer or Guy Myers took a lot of the handoffs in this one, and I think you still need to find a way to get other folks involved, more involved, and avoid these situations where if Guy Myers takes a big hit, suddenly your offense is out of whack yet again. So I think it's a step in the right direction, like I said, but I think there's still work to be done for the San Antonio offense. But seeing them establish an identity with that run first mentality, that next step is going to be able to implement that play action, implement the all right, we've been running this quarterback power for the past 2 quarters. Now we're going to run it, but then hit Naquan Murray deep on a post. Like what types of those types of things are what I think can really help San Antonio take it to the next level and get back on track. They're not out of the playoff race by any means. It's still early in the year, but they've got to get some momentum going now so that they're not finding themselves in too deep of a hole and having to scrap out of it like they did last year. I think last year they started 0-3 and against a tough Western Conference, it was just hard for them to get out of that hole. So San Antonio's again taking steps in the right direction, and yeah, I like what they were doing, but we'll have to see how they continue to improve it from here. Next game we're going to talk about is the Jacksonville Sharks at the Quad City Steamwheelers, and Quad City won this game 62-41. Quad City is an absolute wagon. They are such a good team. Their offense is so fun to watch, and it seems like on any given play, no matter where they are in the field, they have the potential to score a touchdown. And it's just such a fun team to watch. And quarterback Daquan Neal had a really good game yet again. Only 10 passing attempts, only went 6 for 10, but he finished with 130 yards passing and 5 touchdowns and another 48 and a touchdown on the ground. While he did throw 2 picks, the Quad City defense more than made up for it and making sure that those were neutralized on their side of the ball. But Neal had some multiple tough runs as well where he was taking some contact and he was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to go down right now. I'm going to go ahead and pick up another 10 yards in the first down. Then I'll decide to go down. Steamwheelers had over 100 yards passing, over 100 yards rushing, and it felt like they left some on the table too, truthfully. Jordan Vesey at wide receiver, he went 3 for 3 in this one, 3 catches, 3 touchdowns, and Quad City was just able to roll over the Sharks, and Sharks are in a bad spot right now. Quad City's defense played really, really well in this one, came up with 3 turnovers on their own, including a very fun interception return by Bubba Arslanian, who spent some time at DB due to some injuries. So it was interesting to see a big big hulking linebacker, played DB a little bit, but he was able to look like a little John Riggins from the 70s and 80s, being able to rumble and stumble down the field with the ball in his hand. So it was really fun. But as mentioned for Jacksonville, this was a rough one. They were in this game for far longer than they should have been because kicker Mark Orozco, who was just recently signed, was able to connect on three deuces in the first half and really keep this game close. And so, scoreboard wise, this game was a lot closer in the first half than it honestly should have been based on what was going on the field. But if you are a Sharks fan, it's really time to consider the question. And that is, are we sure Caleb Barker is the guy at quarterback? Let's think about it. Let's break this down. He completed less than 50% of his passes in this game, three turnovers, and just had a difficult time in the red zone. Sharks as a whole have had a very difficult time in the red zone these past couple of games, not able to really punch it in like you would expect that they would be able to. And on the year, Barker is completing 53% of his passes, is second in the IFL in interceptions thrown, and is middle of the pack when it comes to yardage per game. So when you have the injuries that they have at running back, you need to lean on that quarterback to be able to carry the offense. And he's not looking like a guy that can carry this offense right now. Like I'm just talking about the eye test here. It just doesn't look that way. The offense scoring offense is 6 out of 7 teams in the East, and it's becoming clear that they need a stellar performance from the defense in order to win. And in games where the defense meets their match, the offense just hasn't been able to step up. And yeah, like I mentioned, the red zone play calling has just been bad. And I don't know. I don't know where the Sharks are sitting at 3-2. They're not a bad team. They're still a good team. They just can't seem to find their way, and they seem to be making some of the same mistakes with new personnel that they had last year on offense. So it kind of makes you think about what could happen over these next coming weeks. They start off 3-0, but they've lost 2 in a row now, and they're going to face a handful of teams that are starting to get hot in the East while they're on the opposite side of that. So if the offense doesn't get stuff together, and I know that again, I know they have some injuries at the running back position, but given the talent that they have elsewhere at wide receiver, that shouldn't matter. And if Barker is the guy that we think he is and the team thinks he can be, he should be able to carry this offense a little bit better. So Jacksonville is going to be an interesting one to watch over these next couple of weeks. Next game we're going to talk about is the Fishers Freight at the Iowa Barnstormers, and Iowa won this game in a blowout, 68-37. Good Lord, Iowa. Starting with Fishers, it was all so simple just a month ago. Home opener was picture perfect. Um, the offense was rolling. The defense was playing stout. You got your quarterback executing. Life is good. Life is great. Everything is peachy. Fast forward a month, you've got a quarterback controversy. You've got don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback moving forward. The offense isn't able to execute. The defense is getting pummeled. It's crazy how much can change in a month. They were able to run the ball pretty well, like Dixie Booten offenses historically are, but once again, the Freight quarterbacks just couldn't get things going through the air. Jai Wright got the start in this one, but then was eventually pulled for Keegan Shoemaker a little more than halfway through this game. But combined, they only went 9 for 23, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Not great. Just not good. But like I said, they were able to run the ball, so it wasn't all bad for Fishers, but they ran for over 160 yards on the ground, 5.2 yards per carry, but the self-inflicted wounds in the passing game and really not being able to get things going opened the door for Iowa to hop out to a big lead and just pile on. And that's exactly what happened. Iowa came into this game looking for their first win, and this was a much needed beatdown win for them. They needed a big win to show that, hey, we have the potential to be a dangerous team in this league. We just need to prove it. And they did so in every aspect of the game. Offense, they had 4 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. Defense, they had a pick six, multiple turnovers. Special teams, kick return touchdown, surprise onside kick recovery. It was just shocking to see. And it seems like every year Iowa has a game where, surprise, they score 70, surprise, they score 80. And this had that feel to it. But will this be the surprise we scored 70 and then we go back to being who we were before that? Or is this a sign of things to change and a sign of things to come for this Barnstormers team? New quarterback James Cahoon was fantastic in his first start for the team, going 17 for 28 for 176 yards and four passing touchdowns. And he really got the offense flowing, and he played the role of facilitator very well. And they didn't lean on him too much. They were able to run the ball effectively, which we've been begging for from Iowa. And they introduced a very fun formation where they had defensive lineman Tyler Tate at Wildcat, and they were able to direct snap it to him, and he handed it off on one play. They got a little cute a couple plays with it, but then they were able to direct snap it to Tate, and he bulldozed his way 2 yards for a touchdown. So that could be something fun that we see later on down the line. But this was a breath of fresh air for Barnstormer fans, and if Cahoon can keep this up, Iowa has the weapons on offense to make some noise in the East and be disruptive to some of those other teams that are in a bit of a lull right now, and they seem to be turning the corner and starting to find their way at a good time. So they're sitting at 1-3 right now. And again, if they can continue to find ways to get the ball to their playmakers, facilitate, and not throw multiple crippling interceptions per game, this Barnstormers team can be fun and can be one that is like, huh, they started off 0-3, but suddenly they're sitting at second or third in the Eastern Conference because they went on a tear. Like this team is more than capable of that. We're going to switch over to the Western Conference now. Northern Arizona Wranglers went to the Arizona Rattlers, and Arizona won this game 49-20. And at a certain point, you just run out of things to compliment the Rattlers on. They're just a great team. They do all the little things so well. Their play calling is incredible. They're able to execute on individual blocking assignments, and Dalton Snead is always able to make the right read in every situation, it seems like, and they just go on offense. It was an impressive game for Arizona, but Northern Arizona was able to put up a bit of a fight in this one in the first quarter. But once the pendulum swang back in the Rattlers' favor, they did not let it go. They did not let Northern Arizona up, and they were able to just dominate in the second half. Dalton Snead, like I mentioned, was impressive in this one, going 17 for 20, 172 yards, one touchdown and one interception, and then with two more touchdowns on the ground. Running back Shannon Brooks, who was one of the best running backs in all of the IFL last year, he was activated off the PUP list before this game, and he had a hell of a season debut. He had two touchdowns on the ground, 7 catches for 54 yards, and a touchdown receiving. And the first 6 drives of the game for the Rattlers ended in the end zone. And you literally cannot ask for more than that from an offense. And on the opposite end of that, you couldn't ask for more from the Arizona Rattlers offense. I don't know what the opposite of asking for more. You couldn't ask for less. I don't know. Whatever the opposite of Arizona Rattlers is Northern Arizona Wranglers was in this game. They scored 20 points. They have yet to break 30 points in a game this season. They were shut out in the second half for the second consecutive week, and they just need they need a new body at quarterback. I think Fowler is just not ready right now. He has not been showing the signs of improvement like you would hope at the quarterway point of the season. And much like last week, if you take away the one big play touchdown to Stoudemire, who had a 39-yard touchdown in the first half, the passing stats are not good. You take away that one big play, again, he's 11 for 22, 91 yards, 0 touchdowns, and an interception. So there's got to be a change at quarterback, whether it's to the backup, whether it's to somebody like Ramon Atkins was activated off the RTR list, whether it be signing a new quarterback in free agency. I don't know what it is. They need somebody new in there because Fowler just isn't the guy for them right now. Maybe he could be the guy in the future, but right now he's not. They're just not able to execute on offense the way that they need to, and the defense is being put in some really bad spots all throughout this season where they're not playing bad. They're playing pretty well in the spots they're given, but again, complimentary football. They're just not getting that from the offense. And I wish there were more nice things to say about Northern Arizona. I like the organization, but until there's a new quarterback in the mix, I got nothing. Next game we're going to talk about is the Green Bay Blizzard at the Massachusetts Pirates, and Green Bay won this game 47-35. So I think we're going to go. I think we're going to end up looking back at this game as a turning point for both of these teams. Both teams came into this game 2-2. Green Bay looking to get back on track, and Mass looking to really build on the momentum that they've had over the past couple of games. But Green Bay came out and controlled this game from start to finish and really looked like the the closest to their 2024 form that they have all year. They played well in some games, but this was the game where I was like, okay, this looks like a carbon copy of what last year was, and last year was very successful for the Blizzard. And strong defense, pass rush breaking through and disrupting the quarterback, and Max Mailer dialing it up multiple passing touchdowns, and then finding ways to get in on the ground. Get into the end zone on the ground as well. And this is probably one of the best all-around games we've seen from Green Bay up to this point. And they're probably going to get only better from here. All IFL defensive lineman last year, Sean Mustin, he signed back with the team. So this strong defense and this strong pass rush is about to get even stronger with Mustin getting in the mix. And we're probably going to look at the start of a run for Green Bay here. And they're going to start to separate themselves from the pack in the Eastern Conference. But for Mass, if you just glance at the box score, it looked like a solid game on offense. It looked like if you were just to glance at the box score, you'd be like, oh, Kenji Bahar, 5 passing touchdowns. Very cool. Very awesome. But it looked like something was off in this one. The play calling seems to be super limited for Massachusetts. And again, Bahar was able to connect for 5 passing touchdowns through the air, which is really good. But there were several key misses in the game where they needed to lean on him and get them back in it, and it just wasn't able to happen. Puka Williams, he had 120 total yards on the day, and Thomas Owens went 3 for 3, 3 catches for 3 touchdowns, but the offense just didn't have that it factor. Like, it just didn't have it. And as a result, we saw a change at head coach. So the team announced on Wednesday that they were letting go of interim head coach and defensive coordinator Frederick Griggs and hiring former San Antonio Gunslingers and Albany Empire head coach Tom Manas to the same role. So it's not often that you see a head coaching change like this this early in the season, or like a head coaching change like this at all in the midpoint of the season. It's the first time in Pirates history that they've made a change at the midway point like this. And the timing of it is odd to me. It screams out this is a panic hire and fire, or fire and hire rather. And the defense wasn't the problem for this team. It really wasn't. The offense was improving week over week, but just needed to find its stride and hit a little bit of a speed bump against a solid Green Bay team. So dropping to 2-3 in the year was apparently enough for them to want to pull the trigger and make the change. And I think it's telling of how the Pirates brass is thinking the season is going. If this was the move that they made, and another coaching change. They came into the season shuffling up the offensive coordinators. They're coming into, week 7 now, week 7 upcoming, with a new head coach, new defensive coordinator, just tons of coaching changes for this Pirates team. And they've been able to be successful as a franchise throughout their entire history, having a different head coach every single year. We'll have to see the impact that Tom Manas can have on this team and see if he can right the ship for the Pirates. But the last game we're going to talk about is the Tucson Sugar Skulls at the San Diego Strike Force. And this was a much needed win for San Diego as they won 45-22. The offense for the Strike Force has been trying to get its mojo back, been trying to figure things out and get back on track. And they started the season running the ball really well. I should say, started the first half of the first game running the ball really well, being intentional with their efforts to do that. And they just weren't able to come close to that same efficiency, but they started to get there in this game when they got into the end zone 4 times with 4 different players on the ground. Nate Davis was fairly efficient in this one, passing the ball, able to get the offense into some positions where they could punch it in. And he had an absolute dart at the end of the first half to the back of the end zone that really, really split the game open for the Strike Force, and they were able to really pull away from Tucson and maintain that double-digit lead for the rest of the way. And it wasn't the sexiest performance that you'd like to see from an offense like San Diego, like we've seen from them over the past year and a half. But again, it was a step in the right direction. Now San Diego just has to get healthy. They've got some wide receivers that are dinged up and sitting out due to injury. And if they can get those guys back and keep stacking these positives, they could potentially go on a run in the West. So it's good to see San Diego recover some of their footing and kind of start to look like the team that we were familiar with last year. And for Tucson, they also started looking like the team that we were familiar with last year, but in the wrong way. They got their first win of the season in Prescott against Northern Arizona the week before this one, and they were able to like they gave you the idea like, oh, look at Tucson, they're doing it, they're doing the thing, they got a quarterback, heck yeah, let's go. And yeah, they kind of fell apart in this one. I think in the blog of in the picks blog I posted last week, I was kind of woke to this where I was like, are we sure Tucson is back? Like I don't know if Tucson's back. They've played a struggling Jacksonville offense tough, and they beat the hell out of a really bad Northern Arizona team. I need to see a little bit more from Tucson before I can say like, hey, they're on the straight and narrow. They're good to go. And this offense is just stuck in the mud yet again. And I'm not sure how they can be successful against a non-Northern Arizona Wranglers team this year. They had a one play touchdown drive to open the game, and then a 50-yard pick six in the second half. You take away those two plays, you're looking at 9 points scored by this offense. 9 points. Not good. Not good, Jim. Not good. This Tucson offense is a mess. I was thinking that George Reyna was the answer. He might not be. Maybe we see some Larry Harrington at quarterback. Run some of that more traditional, run first read option type. I don't know where Tucson goes from here. Like I'm flabbergasted is dramatic, but yeah, it's not surprising to see Tucson struggle, but to see them struggle after a glimmer of optimism last week against Northern Arizona is tough for those Tucson fans that I know are just wanting to see some good football being played, and they have yet to get it over the past couple of years. Lastly, we're going to flip over to the NAL. We got a couple games to talk through. First game we're going to talk about is the Beaumont Renegades taking on the Sioux City Bandits in Sioux City, and Beaumont won another thriller 38-35. So this is a rematch from week one where Beaumont shocked Sioux City and won their debut game as an inaugural expansion franchise. And Sioux City was in control of this game in the third quarter. They were neck and neck in the first half, but Sioux City was in the driver's seat here. But Beaumont just managed to stick around, and they came back and won on a walk-off touchdown. Scored a touchdown with no time left to take the lead, and that was it. That was the game. Quarterback Carl Robinson, third, he had another great game, going 14 for 19 for 131 yards and five touchdowns, and adding another 77 on the ground. He is by far the best dual threat quarterback in the NAL, and he's got to be the front runner for MVP at this point. And he just makes teams pay if they don't account for his scrambling ability. So he puts teams in a pretzel because if you put like a linebacker to spy him, he'll beat you through the air. But if you drop that linebacker into pass coverage, he'll tuck it and run for 10, 15 and gain a first down. So he really puts defenses in a tough spot. And he's the reason this Beaumont offense is able to execute in those clutch moments and be able to pull out these come from behind victories and be able to put themselves in a spot where they can either the offense can go ahead late or the defense can get a defensive stand to end the game. Wide receiver Zuri Davis, he hauled in four touchdowns, and Joshua Neal at wideout caught the game-winning touchdown with no time left, and just another down-to-the-wire fun game from Beaumont. And every single game they've played this year has been a thriller. We talked about it with Malcolm McCoy a few weeks back. I asked him, "Is every game going to be a thriller?" And he said, "Yeah, we'll try." And sure enough, they're the only undefeated team left in the NAL, and every game they play is fun as hell to watch. So big shout out to Beaumont for maintaining that win streak to open their account as an NAL team. But for Sioux City, this was a tough one for them to drop. They're now 2-3 on the year, and they're currently last in the national division. They're 2.5 games back in the playoff race, and they need to string together some wins very, very quickly. And I think they're really struggling on offense to consistently connect on the big play in the passing game. Running the ball is not an issue for Sioux City. They're able to line it up and gain 3-4 yards in a cloud of dust when they need it. Andrew Prohaska, great running back, probably one of the best in all of indoor and arena football. Him and Verlin Reed were able to get into the end zone on the ground 5 times, but they were only able to complete 6 total passes in this game. So it feels like if they're able to connect on the big chunk play, that opens things up for this running game, and that running game can be even more impactful. But they need wide receiver Fred Bruno to step up in the passing game and provide that intermediate, medium, deep passing threat. And Vernon Reed has got to connect on some of those things to help this offense cook and to help this offense get back on track and get back to scoring 40, 50 points a game like they're capable of, like they have like done in the first couple games of the season. So they're in a little bit of a rut. But that being said, they were a walk-off touchdown away from winning this game at the same time. So they're not far off. I feel like their 2-3 record looks a little worse than they actually than the spot they're actually in. I think they're very close to that 2-3 record potentially being a 4-1 record if a couple plays bounce a different way. So the Sioux City team's not going away. They're still going to be a threat to potentially make a run at the playoffs. But in order to do that, they got to start making some of those effective changes on offense ASAP as possible because they're 2.5 games back and they're in a division with a 4-1 Omaha team and a 4-2 Colorado Spartans team. They've got some ground to catch up and they've got to get to work. But speaking of the Colorado Spartans, that's the next game we're going to talk about. The Columbus Lions went to Colorado to face the Spartans, and the Spartans won this game 42-38. So Colorado is a fascinating team to watch. Absolutely fascinating. They have one of the best wide receiver groups in the NAL, but they just can't seem to get things going in the passing game with Khalil Trotman at quarterback. They just can't seem to get it going. Great running threat. They're able to really run the ball down people's throats and really be able to take it to them and just overpower teams on the ground. And especially with how they brought in Lex Rosario and they've utilized him as a running back more than a wide receiver. Lex Rosario led the IFL in receptions last year, all IFL wide receiver, one of the very best in all of indoor and arena football. And they've been using him as a running back in this one. He had 18 carries for 61 yards and 3 touchdowns. And they've lined him up at Wildcat very often and direct snap to him, let him do his thing, gain 4 or 5 yards. He's busted some runs even longer than that. But again, the passing game is puzzling. It's truly puzzling. They were able to control this game without it, but they went 3 for 10 passing for 16 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. That's just not good. Like, it's just not good enough considering the wide receiver group that they have. They need to be able to facilitate and get the ball to their playmakers, get the ball to Greg Dent, Stephen Newbold, Bizette Woodley, like get the ball to these guys and let them do what they can. They've got Andre Sale on the team, and if he's healthy, you gotta think that they turn to him to unlock this passing game. He already has a great connection with Lex Rosario from their time in Tulsa together last year and some of the different places that they've traveled as a combo, Orlando, Billings, and now here in Colorado. This team has such a high ceiling in terms of what they can do roster wise, and um, they just got to get this passing game going. Like they've proven that they can run the ball when they need to, and they can dominate a game on the ground. But if they're able to unlock the potential of this passing game, look out. This Colorado team can be very deadly and can take that next step and be one of the premier teams in the NAL and make a run in the playoffs. They're sitting at 4-2 right now. They're sitting pretty good, but they've left a lot on the table, and if they can pick up some of that stuff that they've left out there, this team could be very, very good. And I'm excited to see where they go from here. But for Columbus, they've got to get things figured out on offense ASAP. Like yesterday, they need to get things figured out. The final score makes this game look closer than it actually was. Columbus was down early after a slow start and was able to stick around, but just ultimately couldn't catch up. They made a switch at quarterback with Vincent Espinoza getting the majority of the snaps, and he played pretty well in this one and kind of got some movement going with this wide receiver group, but it just came too late. Colorado was up double digits, was trying to get a first down on a 4th down, gave the ball back to Columbus late. Columbus was able to score a touchdown with less than a minute left, so that's why I mentioned the score looks closer than the game actually was. But Columbus doesn't have a good running game. The passing game is hit or miss. They look to be going a new direction with Espinoza. And now this Lions team has lost 3 straight games after winning their first 2 games and not giving up a single point in those first 2. So a dramatic swing of momentum for the Columbus Lions in the worst way possible. They're now 2-3. They have their work cut out for them to get back into the playoff hunt. And It's much more in reach in their division where they're at. Um, but they still have to get their offense figured out. They still have to get things figured out in their house and ultimately need to be able to control their own destiny in order to get back in the driver's seat for the playoffs right now. I think they're a half game out behind Shreveport right now in that American division. And yeah, the Columbus offense doesn't look great. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. It's something where I think they've had a specific identity in these other leagues and playing a certain way, and the adjustment to the level of play in the NAL from those leagues has been a little bit tougher of a jump than I think they could have imagined. But Columbus has the potential to still be a very good team if they can get some things worked out. But right now they just look to be in a rut, and we'll see how they can get themselves out of it soon. Then the last game of the weekend for the NAL was the Idaho Horsemen hosting the Las Vegas Kings, a non-league game that Idaho hosted the Kings, and Idaho won this game 62-24. I'm going to be honest with you, I did not watch this one. It was pretty much assumed that an Idaho home game is very much tilted in Idaho's favor, especially against a non-league opponent like Las Vegas. So don't have much to add on here. There just is no box score available either. So go back and watch it for yourself and let me know what you think. And that's the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Thank you to Malik for taking the time this week to join the show and talk about his football journey. A lot of AF1, IFL, and NAL action this past weekend, and a lot more this upcoming weekend as well. So it's going to be an exciting weekend of football across all three leagues, some good matchups across the board that I'm excited to dive into and watch. And make sure you're following Off the Wall on socials for this upcoming weekend of football that we got ahead of us. It's going to be a fun one across all three leagues. At Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball, Off the Wall FB across all socials. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram, X/Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky Threads, all the things and stuff. Make sure you're following us on there. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Please make sure you're liking the video, subscribing to the channel as well, sharing it with a friend that you think would like it. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please make sure you're doing the same, rating the show on the show page, liking the episode, sending it to a friend, all the things and stuff. It really helps out with the old algorithm in helping us get in front of as many people as possible. Let's enjoy this upcoming weekend of football across the AF1, IFL, and NAL. We've got some really good matchups across all three leagues, so looking forward to seeing it. Join the conversation on social. If there's something you want to see discussed on a future show, please throw it in the comments. Hit me on socials, DM me, reply to a post, comment on Instagram, whatever it is. Let's make it like I'm all for the community. I'm all for hearing what other folks have to say and hearing some of the hot takes that people have. There were some spicy hot takes heading into the IFL slate last weekend that were a ton of fun on X. So again, let's enjoy this upcoming weekend of football. See you on socials. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you next time.